Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I have yet another movie review. This movie is a romance film from France, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by Gaspar Noé, and this movie is called Love. So the story of Love, you've got Murphy and Electra. They have a very passionate relationship. Electra is mentally unstable, but they love each other very much. So one evening, Murphy asks Electra what her ultimate fantasy is, and basically her fantasy is to have another female with them, so basically to have a threesome. So this is Murphy's fantasy as well. So they organise for their blonde neighbour to come around and they have the threesome, but then this leads to a lot of problems because it actually turns out that Murphy has made this blonde female pregnant. So this fantasy of theirs doesn't match reality, and it's basically destroyed everything that Murphy and Electra had. But because Electra is Murphy's one true love, he is hell-bent on trying to get her back, and he can't stop thinking about her. Even though now he is with this blonde-headed woman, he can't stop thinking about her. He's always regretting all of his decisions that he's made. He's just regretting what has actually happened, and if he could rewind in time and fix things, he would. But now he's trying desperately to contact Electra, but he is just having no luck. So whether or not Electra has indeed hurt herself or just ignoring him, and whether or not they can come back in the end, it's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Love. I'm a big Gaspar Noé film fan. Now if you've seen I Stand Alone, Irreversible and Enter the Void, you will know that this guy really pushes the boundaries. And I think it's a symbolism of how comfortable Europeans are with extreme cinema as opposed to countries like the USA, Australia, England, where nudity is very provocative for us, but it seems to be just another thing for Europeans. And in the end, nudity is very natural. It's a natural thing, and it shouldn't be a taboo subject as far as cinema is concerned. So when you've got the directors like Gaspar Noé or Lars von Trier who are showing extremely graphic material as far as sex is concerned, that can provoke an angrier response if you're seeing as opposed to if you're seeing graphic violence. Now it should be the other way around. You should be able to stomach graphic sex scenes easier than graphic violence, but I think that there is a strong sense of insecurity as far as these nations are concerned I've just mentioned when it comes to sexual depictions in films, and I think that France and other European countries are more relaxed with it. They've come to terms with the sexuality, and it just doesn't hit them as hard. So I think that Gaspar Noé, Lars von Trier, they're fantastic directors because they're able to splash that natural sort of extremity on film without without feeling pretentious. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they don't feel pretentious. It actually feels like they're doing it very naturally, and that's why I think that European film is so much different from American and Australian and all those kinds of films, in that there's a very contrasting difference in the mood that these films have. So Gaspar Noé is known for extremity, and Love is no different. I thought this was a very extreme film. The depictions of sex are very much in your face. You see everything from erect penises, you've got female genitalia, you've got ejaculation, everything that you could possibly imagine is actually splashed on screen, and it doesn't make any apologies for that. So if you're not aware of Gaspar Noé and you haven't seen any of his films, you are in for a big surprise because it really doesn't shy away from anything. And I like the idea that the movie is a contrasting difference between lust and love. I think that the female in this film, Electra, had the version of love in her mind, but then the man had the version of lust. And I think when they both combined, it didn't really work, and it had that discomfort that a lot of Gaspar Noé films have. And for the first half of the film, I could really connect to their situation. I liked the character of Murphy, I liked the character of Electra, and I thought, the possibility of them coming back together, I thought, contributed with the music. The soundtrack is fantastic in Love. I think Gaspar Noé has a very keen ear for music, and I think that helps contribute to the emotional impact that the film has, not only with Love, but his other films as well. And I felt a lot of sorrow for this, because you actually felt that these guys once loved each other, but then this other sort of occurrence has happened that has really got in the way. And you think to yourself, is this true love or is this lust? And that's basically ultimately the question that I think Gaspar Noé was raising, and I think for the first half of the film it really works. Now, cinematography is excellent. Gaspar Noé once again has a very unique way that he holds the camera. It reminds me of the likes of Michael Haneke, Lars von Trier. Although I don't think he's as good as those directors, he still has that creative flair where he can make a very boring scene very captivating just by the way that it's shot. And so everything about the first half of this film was going very, very well. And I think that the sex scenes, a lot of films, especially 9 Songs, they don't know how to use the extreme sex scenes, so it comes across as just being extreme for the sake of being extreme. But I think that in this movie, the difference between Love and 9 Songs was that Love was showing these graphic material, but it still had a base, it still had depth to it. It was ultimately a story about a relationship. And yes, 9 Songs was as well, but 9 Songs didn't have anything to it. But this movie, it does have depth, and it actually feels like these sex scenes are put in a way that it comes across very naturally. And yes, they are very provocative, but it definitely has the control that a Gaspar Noé film has for the first half, I will say. Now, that's ultimately my biggest problem with this film, is that the first half is great, but the second half is very much a letdown. I think the second half ran out of ideas, and it was just prolonging it for the sake of being a long film. Now, when it comes to these sorts of directors, they need to make long films. This goes to 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I thought that it got to a point way too quickly, and then after that it was out of ideas. So it started to repeat its shocking nature, and you lose the impact of those extreme sex scenes, because it feels like he's just doing it over and over. And then this is where he's going into the pornographic territory. This, in the second half, is where he is going down to 9 Songs territory, where it just feels sex scene after sex scene, and you're losing that emotional connection to these characters because it just feels like it's splashing all this upon you. So when it comes few and far between, then it does hit you a lot harder, because you're actually getting a connection to what's going on. And also, I will have a problem with the acting as well. Now, I think the acting from the female was decent, but it's the guy who plays Murphy that's the problem. I think that the acting wasn't good enough to hold it from start to finish. By the second half, when things start to get a little bit emotional, the acting does fall off the rails a little bit, and you start to notice that, yeah, this is pretty badly acted in some areas. And by the end of it, it just had me looking at my watch thinking, what time is it, when is it going to finish, which is a great shame, because Gaspar Noé is known for his classic films, but unfortunately Love is definitely not one of them, because it just feels like it had a story, but it was just outstayed its welcome quite considerably. If this was cut by about 40 minutes, it could have been a little bit better, but it sort of loses steam towards the second half of the film, and that to me was a great shame, because I wanted to love this film, but ultimately I just couldn't. So overall, for Love, I will say that it's definitely worth seeing if you are a Gaspar Noé fan, but with his high standards, I just felt that Love didn't come up to that. So that was unfortunate, and as a result of that, I'm going to give Love 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.